How's it going, everyone? Thank you very much for joining me. So I was lucky enough to connect with my Pleiadian parallel aspect through the space of the Akashic Records, and was able to get some intel for you guys on what to expect as we close out the year and some potentials that exist in 2022. But before that, I have a personal experience that I want to share with you guys, and I know a lot of you mothers and fathers out there will really relate to this story. So, you know, this was a few days ago. Earlier in the day, I was communicating with my guys and I asked them, how do you see us? What is your perspective? How do we look on your end walking around in these suits? And the response I got was very direct and very simple and, very profound. They said to me, how do you feel when you go outside and look at the stars? And I go, I'm in awe. I see potential. I see endless possibilities. I see love and compassion and experience and everything that makes up reality as we know it. And their response was, well, that's exactly how we see you. When we are looking at you, we are in awe. We see the profound potentials. We see a well of experience. And we see endless possibility. But most importantly, we see you with love, compassion, and zero judgment. And, that was appreciated. That was feedback that I wasn't really expecting. And it's something, that I already kind of knew. It was not a revelation, but it did make me think the rest of the day. And it put me into a state of inquiry. And then the rest of the day, I kind of had the opportunity to see myself as they see me. So it was like, if they see me that way, I would really love if I could see myself that way and then hold on to that perspective of myself. So anyway, it got the wheels spinning, and I was out playing with my little boy, and the sun had just gone down. So my boy is 18 months, 19 months, something like that. He had spent a lot of this summer going to bed before the sun went down. So his bed is 9:30 and it starts to get dark at about 10 here. And before that, in the winter, he couldn't really go outside too much, because it's cold. And then before the winter, last summer, last fall, he was too little to care. But we were outside, and this boy, it had started to get dark, and this boy looks up, and the universe captured him for the first time in this incarnation, and he was just completely awestruck at what he was seeing. It was like everything had come back to him, his full remembrance of who he was, where he is, what he's doing here, and his love and admiration for the universe in that moment was so profound that I just kind of sat back, remembering what I had experienced with the guides earlier, and it just choked me up, and every cell in my body rang with excitement that things came into alignment that way. And the day that I have that discussion with the guides is the first time in my little boy's life that he looked up and noticed the stars, noticed the universe. Not only that, obviously saw his reflection there. It was the first time in this carnation that he looked up and saw who he really was, where he's been before, where he could go next, what he's capable of, all the stories that have been written and everything else that is going to be written as we move on. It was one of the most pure, most beautiful experiences that I could possibly conjure up in my imagination. Manifested itself in the physical right there in front of me, amplified by what I had experienced before, and, the bliss in that moment, and the appreciation for this experience, and for those behind the scenes who are helping steer this ship. It meant everything to me. And afterwards, I was able to reflect, and my guides let me know that experience, that moment in time, was used as a pitch to get you here in this incarnation. So having that experience with my little boy was one of the reasons that I signed up for this place, and one of the reasons I came. And the way it happened just blew me away. I will never question or doubt the universe. And I know that when we look out and see the universe and study the universe, we're actually studying ourselves. And when we study ourselves, we are studying and learning about the universe. So it was an experience that changed me, and I'm excited about what to expect going forward with this little kid running around, this little ascended master, because, my gut feeling tells me that he's going to leave me in the dust. And that he is going to learn from me for a lot of his life, and then I'm going to start learning from him. And I'm already doing that by just observing him, his playfulness, his joy, and the fact that he's able to appreciate and admire anything that he crosses path with at the highest level. I'm curious, what are some things that I should expect as parents who have done it? If you have any advice for me, if you have anything to bring to my attention, I would be very grateful for you to do so. Yeah, the next little thing that I have to bring to your attention is more based on Ascension, more based on the path of the old soul. And this revelation, or this interaction with Spirit, came at a time where I desperately needed it. So, a few days ago, I was kind of feeling depressed. I was feeling unmotivated, uncreative. What is this all for? I've been doing this for so long. What's the point in continuing forward? Those are normal thought forms and emotions for old souls to experience, especially old souls who are remembering and waking up. Because, we've been there and done that so many times that we wake up and then we are faced with the energy of, oh man, this again? Do I really have what it takes to build from the ground up and start all over? Can I really tap in and reclaim and remember some things that belong to me? Is it even worth the effort to do that? What are the rewards? What's the result? What's the outcome that I'm pursuing? But in that moment where I was feeling not my best, I asked the guides why. I asked what I could do to change it. And they said, study yourself. I said, okay, that's kind of vague, but I'll give it a shot. So I did still my mind and began to study the energy I was experiencing at that moment. And I was able to identify an imbalance that was not serving me. So with this YouTube work and with the way I am and the way I pursue things, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and that leads to anxiety. But I kind of use that anxiety, at least I have to this point, as a driving factor for going forward. Building this business, being of service, reading for people, and the fact that I'm no longer at my job and my wife is looking to leave her job, just that anxiety or that drive or motivation was much more pronounced than it had been in the past. So I studied myself, and I noticed that anxiety, and I noticed that it was running when it didn't need to, or, it didn't need to be there to begin with. But before, I didn't really know how to consciously close that program. So in that now moment, my experience wasn't what I thought it was or what I thought it should be. And I used my intention to close that anxiety, just shut it right down, and it was completely gone. And I just went through the rest of my day more blissful and more comfortable in my pursuit of learning about myself, growing this business, and all of that stuff. So then, looking back, I asked, why was I able to do that? What is different? How could I study myself in that way? And then find a solution, and then locate the imbalance, and then shut it down with my intent. And they said, you're working with a different skill set now. You're working with a new skill set that is automatically overriding the judgment. So before, feeling, if I was in that spot where I didn't feel good, wasn't in a good mental health situation, or just having a bad day, something we all go through, I probably would have judged myself for feeling that way, and that would just compound the frustration and the anxiety even more. So what changed in that moment where I took a look at myself, saw what was wrong, and then consciously closed it, is I was able to study myself without judgment. And it was only without judgment that I would be able to identify what program was running that was no longer needed. So something we can't do without judgment is change our reality, change our emotional or energetic circumstance, because judgment is very much a part of the illusion, and it's very much based in survival. And we can't change the 3D from a 3D perspective. It takes a fifth dimensional energy or vibrational perspective to change the third density. So energetically, our tools that we use to examine ourselves have been changed to no longer include the judgment factor, and that's going to make things a lot easier on you guys and myself as we go forward, because that system is only going to function more efficiently as we close out 2021. And the guides have always told me that everything you want, everything you're looking to accomplish, everything you are trying to manifest is on the other side of judgment. And that judgment is more layered and more complex in the way that it works than we realize. So there's a lot of different levels of judgment, and a lot of us are moving through those layers of judgment, getting to the point where they're no longer needed, and then we kind of excuse ourselves from the illusion. So how is what happened to me different than it has been in the past? Well, when I shut down that program, that anxious program that was running in the background, it stayed shut down. It did not automatically pop back up and begin running again. It just stayed off. And as we identify energy thieves like judgment that are running in the background, no longer serving a purpose, and consciously, as the creators of our reality, close that program, the other side of that progress and that work is the bliss phase. And we've all heard about the bliss phase. It is the ascension state that we are all striving toward. It is what you remember subconsciously in your cells that are pushing you to learn and develop and to study who you are and to change your reality and raise your vibration. We are clearing the way so that we can activate a certain level of clarity that puts us in alignment with that blissful state of being that is our natural vibrational state. So take a look in the mirror. Many of you are beginning to study yourself and your experience with a new set of tools. Well, how do you use those tools? Do you remember how? Do you need to ask how? The approach you take on this path is the most important. You need to be soft with yourself. You need to not judge yourself if you're making a lot of the same mistakes. Observe yourself from a higher perspective, implement the changes that need to be made, and then move on. Anyway, you guys, very blessed to be working with so many of you, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who's taken a chance and booked a reading with me. My path has been significantly accelerated from learning in those sessions with you guys. So I'm sitting down with this ancient person who's got a unique book of records to look at, and I'm learning and observing and educating myself along the way. So thank you very much for the opportunity, you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Goodbye.